War games.
War games.
Yeah. What? Crooked Dodger number 2. OC. Yeah, back on the scene, motherfuckers. Me and Primo, you know? East New York, Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, and all those good places. Yo. My mainframe, disciplined like a soldier. Ready for war, push-ups, get my chest swole up. What's the deal, Preem? I mean the scheme. I think I got it locked in, nigga. War games is the theme. Rap commando, what's my handle? OC ample to rock shit. Battle niggas who pop shit. Green beret, Thor slicker. I'm one step ahead, slide through enemy lines like a black act figure. Camouflage. Running through your zone with no detection. Cause the dark skin marksman. Run through your section. Flesh your bones, physical built like titanium. Garbs cover my grill like Iranians ill. Gorilla so-called killers. I fear no man but Allah. For the God that's instilling us, the Renaissance man. I blow it like grenades, sharp like gem stars. Cause massive scars, OC's all in it. Dope up in for years, now I'm back on the scene. And I declare war games. I bust off like an M16, ripping through spleens from head to toe, blood soak up your jeans. Rap veteran, earn my stripes, fought wars, opposing forces. With OC, take losses, nauseous. You're feeling kinda like throwing up, cautious. Watch your step, land rhymes blowing up. Having no pity for foes, fuck G.I. Joe. He's a sucker, slap the taste out of wild motherfuckers. Design a rhyme like a plan for the government. 6 million like Steve Austin, costing apprehended if I am. Enzymes in my body will erupt. M16 tap cadence, voice filled with ammo. Bust off into a crowd of bitch niggas sing soprano. When I get you in the square, then I in your career. All MCs, let's make one thing clear. You're all the same, I will remain. Fuck the fame, filling the lane to shoot. I declare war games. For more fame.
Guerrilla warfare tactics issue unlimited access to ammo with fireproof camouflage and powder. I declare war games
on niggas who flaunt figures for more fame.
Guerrilla warfare tactics issue unlimited access to ammo with fireproof camouflage and powder.
Precise, pinpointed, pulling when I cock back. This here rapper slap you and your team and that bad bitch. Sneeze from my uncut, raw like cold. Preem, take a pause, roll up your smoke, then toke it back to B.I. See, I could do this. I'm professional.
Jack Anderson's office in Washington was photographed by the CIA during the Watergate era. They wanted to know who went in to see Anderson, a man who perhaps knew too much about what went on behind closed doors in Washington, too much for his own good. According to Anderson, the White House plumbers talked to the CIA about using poison against him. The government used exotic electronic equipment and some 18 radio cars at one point to keep track of Anderson and his helpers. They did this, Anderson says, because they wanted to know who was supplying him with information. Anderson's reporting in the newspapers and on TV has made him one of the best-known investigative reporters in the country. I talked with Anderson about the TV movie, Washington Behind Closed Doors, and asked him if he felt the American public needs to know so much about the lifestyles of the people they send to Washington.
Yes, of course. Our country is unique. In most countries, the people in power are the sovereigns, the king, the monarchy, the dictatorship, they are the sovereigns. Here, the people are the sovereigns, and the people have the power.
In Behind Closed Doors, the president makes a deal with a CIA director. Do you know of any such deals that Lyndon Johnson may have made with the CIA director at that time?
I don't. I know that according to the story plot, that the CIA had a tremendously embarrassing secret. I know about it because it's a secret that I personally dug into and was the one who exposed. Mm-hmm. This was the fact that the CIA had hired MAFIA mobsters to try to kill Fidel Castro. This was a secret that LBJ knew about. This was something that troubled him. He has told 2 or 3 people that he believes that this plot may have backfired against John F. Kennedy. that the attempt to kill Castro may have triggered the events that led to Kennedy's own assassination.
Do you know of any wheeling and dealing in the Carter administration that after a period of time could become perhaps the subject of a 6-part series on TV?
No, of course not. If I did, I would be writing about it. Certainly, people are talking, probably even conspiring behind closed doors in the White House. It'd be unusual if they were not. On the other hand, I believe that Jimmy Carter and the people around him are trying to do what they think is best for the country. I think one of the things they would regard as best for the country would be the re-election of Jimmy Carter at the end of his first term.
How do you find out whether something is true or not? Do you have access to files quite easily?
You know, we have very strict standards, but I'd have to acknowledge that it's difficult for an investigative reporter because we're digging into what the government doesn't want us to find out. And the government's ability to cover up exceeds our ability to uncover. We don't have press conferences. I've never known a government official ever to call a press conference to announce his wrongdoing. Nor have I ever known a government agency ever to issue a press release to spell out all the mistakes that it's been making. For an investigative reporter, there are not press packets. There are not press releases. There are no press conferences. We have to find out what's going on behind the closed doors. Government, by its nature, tends to oppress those it has power over. And if we didn't have a spotlight on them, if we weren't exposing their misdeeds and their bad deeds, well, we've seen what happened with the CIA. Because it was able to operate in the dark, all of a sudden we wake up and find that they were experimenting with our minds. They were violating the Geneva Convention. They were subjecting people to medical experiments and to drugs without their knowledge. Why, that's in violation of the treaties that we've signed. That's immoral. And we abhor it. And we have stated it. And we have even signed treaties saying that we'll have no part in this. And the CIA was doing it. Doing it because it was able to operate in secret. Why, if the first time they began that project to manipulate people's minds without their knowledge, if we'd been able to report that on the front pages, how far do you think that project would have gotten?
Is the Washington scene unique, or does this type of thing go on in other countries?
Well, I've always found that the struggle for power is intense, that people will do for power what they would never do for money. And, of course, the stakes here in Washington are higher than probably in any other place, because Washington, the United States, is more powerful than any other country. So you can expect the struggle for power to be an intense one, a sophisticated one, and you can expect plots and intrigues. But, yes, of course it goes on in other places, and it's much more crude in other countries. In less developed countries where the stakes are not nearly as high, people are murdered. People are thrown up against the wall. People are hauled off into concentration camps. People mysteriously disappear in the struggle for power. Here the struggle is more sophisticated. Here the intrigues are more subtle.
You might say Jack Anderson has a personal interest in the movie Washington Behind Closed Doors. Most of his 9 children audition for parts in the movie and appear in some of the crowd scenes. We'll be back with Evening Departments in 1 minute.
We do stand on the edge of a great new era, filled with both crisis and opportunity. I have come to Texas today to salute an outstanding group of pioneers.
I'll never forget it as long as I live. It's haunted me for so many years. I was getting all these rumors that the president was going to be assassinated in Dallas. There was no ands, ifs, or buts about it. He says, "Marty, you worry about me too much." 18 hours later, he was dead.
On November 22nd, 1963, Marty Underwood's greatest fear became a reality. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, was assassinated.
Everybody that had anything to do with Dallas in any way, Kenny O'Donnell, all the Secret Service, they're practically all dead now. I just think people should know the truth.
Marty Underwood was an advance man to both Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. Preceding the president on nearly all of his trips, Marty was responsible for arranging everything from room accommodations to crowd gatherings. Although Marty prepared Kennedy's trip to Houston on the 21st and made ready his supposed trip to Austin on the 23rd, it was Kenny O'Donnell who advanced JFK to Dallas, but Marty rode in the motorcade.
Dallas was probably the most bigoted city in the United States. He was very apprehensive, especially that last week. I couldn't help it. You just don't know how many people would say, and these are big people in Texas, would say, if he comes to Texas, please don't let him go to Dallas.
But Kennedy believed the trip was vital, both politically and personally.
This is the first time Jackie had ever gone on a political trip with him. He said she's never made a trip and she's looking forward to this, and that it was just, he was adamant about it.
His name is Lee Harvey Oswald, O-S-W-A-L-D.
Although history books tell us that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy, Marty disagrees. After years of being sworn to secrecy, he feels it's time to speak out.
The two things I was asked most after I got out of the White House, was it the C.I.A. or was it Hoover, or was it the MAFIA? Hoover was in it up to his neck. He had, on the 5th floor of the FBI building, 4 rooms full of files, blackmail files, on everybody that amounted to anything, whether it was the president or Martin Luther King. He was tied in with the CIA, and the CIA was in with the Mafia on it.
So you think that the FBI and the CIA both knew?
I think they knew he was going to be hit, and I found out for sure because Win Scott, who was the head CIA of not only Mexico but Central America and Cuba, if they hadn't gotten him there, his number was up. It was just a matter of where they got him. They were thinking about if they missed him in Dallas of getting him on the ranch the next day.
Years later, Win Scott, who had knowledge of Castro and the Mafia's dealings in the underground network, would also reveal information to Marty that would devastate President Johnson.
Johnson, all through the years, kept saying there's 2 cancers that are killing my presidency. One was Vietnam, the other was the fact that invariably every 6 months, one of the Inquirer, somebody come out. Lyndon Johnson was definitely part of the assassination. He said, I wonder if your friends south of the border would be able to clarify any of this. So I got down to Mexico City, and I hadn't gotten off the plane 2 feet, and a little Mexican tapped me on the shoulder, got me in a car, and drove me for about, I'd say, 10 minutes to an unlit house, which was evidently a CIA house, probably completely, insulated. And I spent about 4 hours with Win Scott, and that's where I found out probably more about the assassination. And I said, well, do you feel that the president was involved? And he said, not in any way, none whatsoever.
During Marty's conversation with Scott, the name of Chicago Mafia boss Sam Giancana surfaced over and over. Marty felt the need to confront Giancana face to face.
I wasn't close to Giancana, but I had a good speaking acquaintance. He liked me. And I told him right out, I said, I found out quite a few things, and I said, the president's very disturbed about these rumors coming out. And he said, well, he's very hot-headed. He said, you can go back and tell him, he said, that his number was up on the board too. And I said, come on. He said, no. He said, we don't want any more investigations. And he said, when Johnson put the Warren Commission in, we were tickled to death, and so was Hoover, because we knew it'd be a whitewash.
I think that's the prettiest picture of Jackie Kennedy I've ever seen.
Even Jackie. Yeah.
Today, Marty is more open to speaking of secret events that at one time were too dangerous to reveal. He feared not only for his life, but his son Marty Jr.'s as well. After 25 years, however, he still relishes the past through pictures and artifacts he has kept. Nestled deep within Marty's heart are bittersweet memories of a man America loved.
He wasn't a great president. Didn't have a chance to be.
The nation was shocked at the assassination of John Kennedy. In the days that followed, millions mourned him as they would have a member of their family. Throughout the grieving process, it was the tiniest member of the president's family who stood out in one of the most poignant moments of the funeral.
I just had a feeling that it was the photograph for the funeral, and it was going to be very memorable.
No one who saw the haunting image that photographer Stan Stearns captured that morning can ever forget the sight of young John Kennedy saluting the caisson bearing the body of his slain father.
I took out the longest telephoto lens I had, and I just watched Jackie's expressions. They walked out of the church. They started to play the national anthem. She whispered in the kid's ear. The hand went up, click, and the hand went down. That was it. Only just took seconds. So when it was over and the entourage started to go to Arlington Cemetery, I'm asking all these other 60 or 70 photographers, did you all see the salute? And they said, what salute? So I had the picture of the funeral.
Stan had taken literally thousands of shots in his 20 years as a press photographer covering the White House, but few have left an impression as vivid, even if it didn't really exemplify the courage we've all read into it. Was John just shading his eyes?
I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that unless Jackie puts it in some memoirs. Whether she told him to salute or he was shielding it from the sun, I don't know, and nobody knows.
Fairy tales can come true, it can happen to you.
He was the 35th President of the United States, and while his time in office was not long, his youthful vigor and the strength of his ideas held a promise that inflamed the hopes of all Americans.
What you can do for your country.
If you're young at heart.
That spirited life and those innocent hopes were lost forever when John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963. History books tell us that a crazed gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald, was the killer. And in fact, at the time, that was the only explanation reasonable to a grieving country.
As he was waving back, the shot rang out and he slumped down in the seat.
25 years have erased a few memories of the assassination, but for some people it has raised questions. And for David Scheim, one dark and disturbing conclusion. John Kennedy was killed by the Mafia.
My book squares totally with the conclusion of the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1979. They found that the murder of President Kennedy was a probable conspiracy and that the Mafia had the motive, means, and opportunity to kill President Kennedy.
Now, it is important to know that David Scheim is just an ordinary citizen with a passion for the truth. He does not write bestsellers for a living. He is a mathematician working for the National Institute of Health.
Hi.
For the last 10 years, he has spent $80,000 of his own money researching government files relating to the assassination. With the help of paid graduate students like Kristen Goss, he has searched and cross-referenced. And in his book, Contract on America, The Mafia Murder of John F. Kennedy, he has pieced together some extraordinary facts to support his conclusion. For example, fact: JFK refused to pursue the overthrow of Castro. This meant permanent loss of gambling profits to the Mafia. Fact: under the president, Robert Kennedy accomplished the most effective purge of the mob in history. In 1963, the Mafia was on the run. Fact: according to testimony gathered by the House Select Committee in 1979, 3 leading members of the Mafia stated their intention to eliminate John and Robert Kennedy. One of these leaders was Jimmy Hoffa. But why did the official government investigation, the Warren Commission, fail to come to the same conclusion?
This was really the charge of the Warren Commission. Wrap it up quickly, pin it on Oswald. That was really their job, and they did what was expected of them. There was never really an objective, careful investigation of the JFK murder until the late 1970s, when the House Select Committee re-examined the case and concluded it was a conspiracy with the mob the probable suspect.
It is well established that John Kennedy was not killed by a bullet from the gun of Lee Harvey Oswald, based upon his position behind the motorcade. And since he was the only captured assassin, the conspiracy could be covered up if he were also eliminated. Enter Jack Ruby. Fact: with extensive ties to the mob, Jack Ruby was seen by the Secret Service 5 times the day before the assassination, effectively stalking the president in Houston. Fact: he had always had ties to the 3 Mafia leaders alleged to want the assassination. But in the months preceding November, Jack Ruby's phone records suggest daily contact with these same leaders. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out so well for Jack Ruby.
Ruby expected that his alibi of a rash, spur-of-the-moment action would be believed, that he'd get off for second-degree murder, spend a couple of years in jail, acclaimed as a public hero, and then go free. It's only after his first-degree murder conviction that Ruby asked to testify and begins making these amazing hints of conspiracy and mob involvement.
In fact, just days before his death, Jack Ruby spoke to television newsmen on 2 occasions and made it quite clear that he was involved in a conspiracy. But 25 years later, is there much point in reconstructing the events of this tragic loss? For David Scheim, the answer is obvious.
I think it's important in an age where perhaps some cynical values, we see a lot of people out to make money or for personal gain, that we know that President Kennedy was a hero. When he became president, he appointed his brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, who went after the mob with full force. Kennedy fully supported this crusade. It was of no benefit, and it ultimately cost President Kennedy his life. I think it's important to know that whatever Kennedy's faults were, he was a hero. He died a hero.